Wilda was a Milwaukie city councilor. She was briefly the Milwaukie mayor. But that's only a tiny slice of the things Wilda has done in her 20 plus years in this area. And she knows everyone. She's served on every kind of board and commission and helped all kinds of charitable enterprises. And so it was really fitting that the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, where she did once work, gave her the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I wanted to invite these guys to sort of talk about that process and their selection of Wilda. However you guys want to do it.
Well, what I want to say about Wilda is, I don't think there are any facts that either y'all don't already know about her or she's going to tell you tonight. But when I moved here to Milwaukie 6.5 years ago to start my business, Wilda was one of the first people I met in my networking, probably at the Chamber of Commerce networking, but in other networking as well. And for these 6.5 years, she's been my friend, my neighbor, my confidant, my role model, my mentor, and has been such an inspiration to me as a woman business owner in this area, and just has been so welcoming to me. And I know I'm not the only one. I know that's how she is. We've done chamber things together. We've been on numerous committees together. We're in Rotary together. She's voluntold me for several things over the years, which I really do appreciate. And so it's just been an honor to work with her and play with her and network with her. And thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight to introduce her as the Chamber of Commerce 2024 Lifetime Achievement Award. So,
thank you. And Jay? Yeah, you need it to be read.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
This is high society compared to my chamber. My name is Jay Jones. I am the president and CEO of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, and I just circling myself on a year, but I've lived in Happy Valley for the last 5 years, and I knew who Wilda Parks was before, as I started interviewing for the role. As I met people, I had coffee with Ann. I just started, part of the job is really getting to know the community and the members that you're going to serve. And every place I went, someone said, "Oh, have you talked to Wilda yet?" When I was selected for the role, Don and I were having a conversation, and I said, "Hey, I want to meet Wilda Parks because everyone's been talking to me about her." And so we were going to set up a coffee date. Well, 2 or 3 days before I started, I snuck in at a ribbon cutting on a Friday, and there's Wilda Parks, one of the first people I've met. And I was astounded by her genuine, authentic personality, her energy, and her hugs. Like, she will squeeze you to death, which is fantastic. That same hug and love, she's shown me over the last year. We've met different times, and she tells me stories, and she tells me, she comes off humble, but then she still kind of leans in and points her finger a little bit that says, you need to sign up for this committee, and you need to make sure that you get with these ACE people. You're going to want to get around them. Yes, ma'am. She sends me some emails that says, "Oh, there's this nonprofit over here that doesn't know what to do with their furniture, but I bet you can figure it out." Yes, I'm on it. I got it. I really enjoyed when I was reading the nomination forms, and everyone talked about her caring, how she shows up, her story. And I talked to her several times, but on the day of the event, the Lifetime Achievement Award, she was amazing. She just flowed, and she was really, really authentic. She talked about the struggles, and she talked about, having kids at a young age, and she talked about, different scenarios, and having divorces and that kind of thing. And I really respected that as someone that other people look at, because things happen, and you have to pivot in life. And she showed everyone that, you can remember her from being a mayor, you can remember her being the president, CEO of the chamber and all these committees, but she's a person at heart. And it makes people understand that it's okay. It's okay, to stumble. But when you stumble, you got to get up and get moving. And, Wilda Parks gets moving, and she gets people moving. And so I'm so honored, to be here. Thanks for inviting us to come, because she's a special friend. And she goes out of her way for folks. After the event, she said, "Oh, you're going to do other Wilma events." I said, "Oh yeah, we're doing a learning course, and then the next one we're going to do Wilma 2. And she says, "Huh, I bet I could mentor some people." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, I bet you could. You definitely, you will be on the program because there's capstone projects and mentorship available." So she and I will be hanging out a lot more, and I'm honored to do so.
Well, thank you guys so much. I invite Wilda to come up, and I should say that I did not introduce this very well. This is we invited Wilda, and we invited you guys to mark Women's History Month with us. I did want to give a shout out to the book that you see the cover on the slideshow, Milwaukee's Historic Women. That's a book put out by the Milwaukie Museum. You can get it at the Milwaukie Museum. I think it's $15 or maybe $20. And it's a great book, and they have a great exhibit of women through the years, including, past elected women, as well as, Florence Ledding and the names from Milwaukie. But anyway, I was really sorry to be out of town when when there was the luncheon to honor Wilda in January. And so I was glad that this was a nexus where she's gonna, I think, give us a little sampling of the speech she gave at that luncheon. And so I'm excited that we have that opportunity since I missed it.
Do want to tell you that for those of you who heard the speech at the luncheon, this is not going to be the same speech because we're talking about Women's History Month. So it caused me to think about how some of those kinds of factors impacted my life throughout the years. And so I've kind of combined the two, and I truly did try to edit it, but here I am. And for those who know me, I can talk. Thank you very much, actually, for inviting me to be part of Women's History Month. I'm honored to be a citizen of Milwaukie and help contribute to the successes of our city and our region. I'm a child of the World War II years. My family lived in a lot of places. Both my parents worked, and often we slept by the roadside with other travelers. When I was a child, I didn't know that was different from the way other people lived. In 1943 in San Jose, California, we lived in a boxcar. A couple of years later, continuing to move around, we were in Phoenix, Arizona, living in a tent, a huge canvas tent that was portioned off with spaces for sleeping. It was my mother, my father, my grandmother, my sister, my brother, and 2 dogs. Then almost magically, both my parents got jobs, live-in jobs, in a 21-room mansion on Biltmore Drive with Camelback Mountain in the background and a golf course in our backyard. That's where, when I was 6 years old, I had my first bedroom. Throughout my youth, we continued to move throughout the United States. For me, as a young girl, the one plus in moving was that I could always find a library where I would spend my time. Libraries, my babysitter, my sanctuary, often my educator. The world, the nation, was changing around me, and I didn't notice. When I was born, women had only had the right to vote for 20 years. My mother was a child when that happened. My dad, who was 50 when I was born, had experienced that time. I realized we were a household of 3 generations and 3 different expectations. By the time I was 19, I had been married, divorced, had a child. My second marriage was shortly before my 20th birthday. Through those years, I worked as a waitress in a variety of settings, a coffee shop, a dinner house, a local cafe, a drive-in. No high school diploma, working housewife, young children, no roots. I figured I would just work really hard at being the best server possible. Then in 1967, my husband and children and I moved to Montana, a move that changed my life. It was in Montana that I began to see needs all around me, not just my own family. I quit waitressing, and after other community service, I opened a recreation center for the kids of the area. Then a friend of mine convinced me to run for school board. And I'm like, I don't even have a high school education. I can't do that. She said, yeah, you can. I put my hat in the ring, ran for election, and I won the election. It just goes to show what you can do when somebody believes you and gives you courage and confidence. And serving on that district board was exhilarating. I loved it. Looking at issues, discussing solutions, choosing a method, looking for the long term, kind of like city council. And then we moved back to California. My marriage unraveled quickly about the time I decided to take a GED test and get my high school equivalency. With that, I realized I could go to community college, then the University of San Francisco, and I was 47 years old, starting a new job as the CEO of the Hanford, California Chamber of Commerce when I graduated with honors. I recall that it was at that time period that I was able to get my first credit card on my own name. That's also when I purchased my first car in my own name. I was shaking so bad from nervousness at that car dealer and anxiety that I could barely sign for it, a Ford Pinto. I didn't always make good choices. Women were still working their way through job situations that previously had been men only, and chambers of commerce were one of those. At least male dominated, if not men only. The U.S. Chamber's School for Chamber staff was male oriented, and in 1984, they even taught women how to shake hands with a male business person and not feel subservient about doing it. When I was invited to join Rotary International in 1989, I was the first female in a club of over 100 men. Friends called my newbie red badge the red badge of courage. I don't think myself, anyone, other people serve our community thinking it will bring us recognition or an award. I believe we're all looking for the reward of a stronger, healthier community. My path was and is similar, and yet it's different from others. But our goals are the same, and little would be accomplished if we were alone. My story of the roads that led me here is not unique. I'm sure there are many who can relate, but I do think it's an example of what was and what could be. We each determine our own areas of interest and work towards solutions. For me, I focused around helping to ensure that everyone's voices were heard at all levels. All the committees, task forces, other things I served on in all my years on Milwaukie City Council and continuing now, that's still my focus. Milwaukie has a great reputation of inclusion, not just of women, but also of other marginalized groups. Although, in over 100 years as a city, Milwaukie has only had 4 women mayors. The women who came before us, who fought for the right to vote, fought for equal pay, fought for the right to have a credit card in their own name, and so many other issues that helped ensure there was equality between men and women in the United States, are among those to be celebrated during Women's History Month. They set the stage for the opportunities that we all, male and female, enjoy today. Thank you, Milwaukie, for recognizing the positive advances for and by women. Thank you. I want to also give a thanks to my granddaughter, who has been my savior getting to a lot of places and a lot of other ways too. So,
Yes, thank you, Heather, for helping her be here with us tonight, for sure. And I will read the proclamation, and then before you go, I'd like for us to all get a picture up here with, yeah, great. Whereas in each year since 1987, the United States has observed Women's History Month, a month-long celebration every March to acknowledge the struggles and contributions of women of every race, class, and ethnic background. And whereas, despite the challenges of finding appropriate childcare, which were exacerbated by the pandemic, and the continuing pay gap between men and women, women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of society and constitute a significant portion of the labor force. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and especially the peace movement, and continue to be on the forefront of efforts toward a more equitable and democratic society. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of women in Milwaukie, Oregon, and our national histories has been overlooked and undervalued. Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, and with the full support of and sponsorship of the Milwaukie Historical Society, do hereby proclaim March 2024 to be Women's History Month in Milwaukie, and do recommend its observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. All right. So if everyone wants to come in front, yeah, let's go in front of the, yeah. Yeah. And Donna and Jay, come join. Then Heather, did you? Yeah, these things aren't very.
Oh gosh, what's that? Oh yeah, you gotta run it out. I went for months to come in here and it comes right. 3.